Hey guys, it is Sam here from Team NCG. Today we've got a little video for you, just looking at the EUIC 2019 that happened in Berlin this past weekend. We've got a little bit of a review of the top 8 decks from the event, and then we've got Karl on with us, who's just going to take us through a little bit of a discussion of his Ultra Necrozma top 64 deck list, just chatting through a few of the counts and a few of the techs and cards that he used. So, Karl, do you want to just introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi guys. This is Karl from NCG. We're just going to run you through a quick video, sort of talking about EUIC and sort of how it sort of all came to pass. And then obviously had a number of questions from a number of people in regards to the deck list and sort of the counts and the reason for the cards in there. So we're just going to run through some of those questions and answer them as best we can.
Excellent. So, as we said, we're going to have a quick look at the top 8. I think this was definitely the event where Pika took on its time to shine, as you can see there on the screen. 4 of the top 8 lists, including both finalists, were running the Pika decks. So I think certainly from my wandering around the hall, I don't know about you, Karl, but from me wandering around the hall, it was definitely the deck that I saw on every table.
Yeah, pretty much everywhere. I wish I'd played more of them. But yeah, it was out in force, which is good to see. They're not afraid of the fighting decks, which is the most important thing there.
Yeah, I think also interesting is 3 Zoroark decks making the top 8 there, one with the Lucario in there as well. But obviously a good mix of the strong Pika tag team and the kind of deck that looks to counter it a little bit more.
Okay, for sure.
So I think that was interesting. Was there anything you picked up particularly this weekend that you thought was interesting, Karl?
No, I think if you look at the top 8 there, like if you looked at the top 8 without knowing the result already, you'd probably pick the Zoroark Lucario to win the whole event, because you'd imagine that it would just run through all of the bits there. But other than that, I think the amount of hybrids I saw, the sort of the Pika hybrids, they're sort of more focused. There's a lot of Zapdos on them, whereas if you looked at a lot of the American list, there's maybe 1, whereas these lists were sort of running sort of 3 plus, and it just seems to moving to more of a hybrid deck rather than just the straight Pika that we've seen from a lot of the sort of American events.
Yeah, I think the Gustavo Wada's list, I think he ran 3/3 Jirachi Zapdos, and then 2 copies of Pika. So yeah, like you say, very much a hybrid version of the deck, almost a Zapdos deck.
Yeah, it's not as turbo as we've come to see from a lot of the sort of the Rayquaza lists with like the 4 Order Pad and the 4 Energy Switch, which is good. It's moving into a more sort of versatile deck.
Yeah, interesting you mentioned there about Rayquaza as well. How much Rayquaza was in that room on day 1?
Oh goodness, yeah.
I mean, I thought that deck was dead, but it was silly, right?
There was a lot of them. None of them playing the Hat Ladies, so I wasn't particularly impressed.
No, I was disappointed in that regard, yeah.
Even for the round 1 feature match, like Alex Dow versus the Americans, they're both playing different Rayquaza lists, but just the amount of different Rayquaza lists they were just sort of shows that, okay, maybe the deck isn't as dead as we thought it was. It's still there.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. But yeah, so just congratulations to Gustavo Wada for picking up the win. Obviously a very, very competitive top 8 looking down the list. So yeah, I'm sure he'll be really pleased to come out on top of that. I know he's had a few good results this year with a few SPEs and things like that. So just another one under his belt, I guess. So yeah, but we'll go on to your list, Karl. Like you said, we have quite a high number of questions regarding
not quite
your list.
not quite a top 8, but we'll top 64.
Top 64,
right, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, so we sort of threw out on Hey Fonte and Verbank and a few other Facebook forums, just for a few questions. I know you'd had a few questions sort of directly to your inbox and things like that as well. So we'll just try and cover a few of those. Is there anything you want to sort of comment on about the deck in general, why you chose to play it for this event?
No, the only reason I played it is just because it was the thing I felt the most comfortable with. I really dislike playing Zapdos Jirachi decks. One, because I always mess up somewhere, and it's just like super hard. Whereas this deck just sort of it plays itself. You are able to just like really sort of capitalize on a lot of the matchups. whereas I have seen a lot of people really struggle with the deck.
Yep.
Particularly like mirror match, for example. But if I was to play a mirror match there, I knew exactly what I was doing every single turn. But then there's just a lot of sort of every time I see someone play the deck, I just see them doing things wrong.
Sure.
And it's just the way they approach certain matchups is like it's just like infuriating. Like watching them do it, it's just like it is quite frustrating because you're like, okay, this is a really simple matchup for you, and you just have to follow one or two sort of basic rules, and then you just sit and watch them break the sort of the rules time after time, and it's just like, okay, so you've really had every option to just be given the win, but you've thrown it away multiple times.
Yeah. So obviously you've commented on the mirror there. Which other matchups did you feel particularly comfortable approaching?
Oh, Zoroark. Any form of Zoroark is just very, very simple. It's just they can't one-shot enough GXs.
Yep.
So as soon as they've gone, they can use the GX attack once, but if you're minimizing yourself to 3 bench, they need the choice band and the Kikui to take the KO on the Necrozma with the Lycan Rock. But in that case, you just get Beast Ring as well, which just means you pretty much also win that matchup.
Sure.
Again, Pikarom, Gengar and Marshadow put in work there. I blew through every standard Pikarom I played to none of the games were even close. And it's just purely because obviously the Gengar and the Marshadow, and obviously the Ultra Necrozma only needs 3 energy to one-shot Pikachu, so
sure,
it is just such an easy matchup, honestly.
Yeah. That's fair enough. So, as I said, we had quite a few questions about the counts and things. So, the first one I'm going to throw out at you is the ball count here. So, obviously, we've got the 3 Ultra Ball, the 2 Nest Ball, and then the 4 Treasures. One of the questions that got asked a couple of times was about sort of playing the 2 Nest Ball and how consistent that was for getting the INKs down and getting the turn 1, turn 2 setup.
Yeah, well, you've got the 4 Mysterious Treasures and the Ultra Balls as well. But a lot of the time, if you're forced to go first, then fantastic, you've got enough time to do what you like. But if you're going second, then you've also got the option to get some down, but also then Horror House GX with either the Marshadow or the Gengar. And then you've then got the ability to then do it all again the following turn. So so there's not like a huge rush, but like the amount of times you're Lillying sort of 7 or 8 turn 1 is there. And you're hard drawing the INKs as well. There's a lot of cards in the deck that are alive turn 1, bar obviously the Beast Ring stretches and so the Ace Ring gives me every single card in the deck is there for a reason. Like it's very hard to cut things from the deck without sort of like losing to other matchups.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. Okay. So you mentioned about the Horror House GX on the Gengar Mimikyu. When were you sort of looking to use that? Is that matchup dependent or? When are you looking at using it?
It is matchup dependent. It really is matchup dependent. Obviously, like depending on, like if you're playing against Zoroark, for example, if you go second and use it with Marshadow, it's great fun. Sure. But you never want to actually bench the Gengar itself in those matchups. Against Pikarom again, using the game whenever they've got a Pikarom on the bench and it can't KO the following turn, or if they've got something that's active and they don't have the energy already in play, you can use the Marshadow and Horror House and then Guzma and KO a fresh Pikachu.
Yep.
And then it means whenever they bench the other Pikachu and KO the Marshadow, whatever they have is dying. It's very, very straightforward, and it's just using it and also just reading the situation. That if you're in a really winnable spot, and you can obviously just use the Gengar against a lot of the Zapdos matchups as well. Because if they've got a Shrine in play or they're attacking into the Gengar, you've got the Aceroro as well, so you can get the benefit of the attack and then attacking with it. And then obviously when they come to attack you, you've then got the Aceroro to pick it back up. So you're then winning the price race.
Yeah, sure. So that, like I say, that was one we had quite a lot as well. So that was I'm sure a lot of people find that an interesting one. You've already kind of commented on the Pikarom matchup, but is that one, as you said, you just feel fairly easy with that? It's a question we've had a couple of times as well.
Yeah, honestly, every time I saw that I was playing against Pikarom, I was like, fantastic. What am I getting for food and drink afterwards? Because this isn't going to last too long. The matchup's just so fast. It's just like, okay, I can attack 3 times and take 6 prizes because obviously I'm going to Horror House GX, take another 2 prizes with Poltergeist, and then take 3 prizes with Poltergeist, and then when you attack with the other one, I'm going to kill it with Necrozma. And it's just like, okay, sweet, 3 attacks, win the game.
So that's just a case of outspeeding them, yeah?
Yeah, it's not even just the outspeeding side of it. It's the case of they're only ever going to be able to take sort of the 4 prizes there. If you've got the Lele on the bench, then you're playing with fire, I guess, because if they can set up and you miss the KO, then fine. But the Horror House puts them so far behind, whereas means you can obviously then take a prize with the Marshadow, and have an Ultra Necrozma ready with an energy and potentially a psychic recharge on it already.
Sure.
For you then to KO the other one. So they're either KOing that or KOing the Marshadow. But because you've stopped them before they can full blitz onto all their guys, it's very difficult for them just to go from sort of 0 or 1 energy to 5 or 6. So
sure.
It's honestly, it's relatively straightforward. Like, you could sit there and watch the match and play the match 100 times over, and your game plan is exactly the same every time.
Sure, that's fair enough. Another one we had a number of times was just a question about the beast ring counts. Now, obviously, you play 2. Some people are questioning whether you play any, whether you just play 1. What was your thoughts on the beast ring? What was the reason for 2?
Beast ring just auto wins a lot of the problem matchups. So obviously Zoroark is going after your Melamars all the time. Why wouldn't you punish them for it? It makes no sense not to play it. There's not really a lot of decks right now that can actually play around Beast Ring. If you're playing correctly, there's not much they can do. So I just don't see the point where you wouldn't play a card that just lets you grab energy for fun. Like, it's just a broken card.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very easy card to play, I guess, but I'm a big fan of the card as well in a lot of decks. I think I've certainly, the last few decks I've had that I've personally been successful with, I've played the card, so I mean, honestly, I'm not questioning the card. It's
like, if people were still playing stuff like Ninetales and sort of more spread decks that could play around it, then there's an argument there to cut it. But since they're not, there's really no argument for it. It's just a free 2 energy. And at this point, if you've only got one or 2 Malamar and playing the KO 1 and you Beast Ring, it's a case of, okay, well, what can I do? Every time I played the Beast Ring over the tournament, everyone's sort of chin hit the table. And there were several comments after the games that, oh my god, how do you play Beast Ring and why do you play Beast Ring? I'm just like, well, because no one's playing around it.
Yep. Sure. And then the only other real question that came on the list that we got in was about that one-off cheeky little Tapu Coco that's in there as well. So I know you kind of explained this to me over the weekend, that it helps in the mirror and it helps in certain other matchups, particularly like Zapdos and things like that. But do you want to just talk us through the Coco a little bit as well?
Yeah, obviously it's great for mirror match. The idea being in the mirror match is that at some point the game will come down to one person having 4 prizes, the other person having 3 prizes, and whoever takes the first prize and doesn't Sky Scorch the same turn will lose.
Sure.
So being able to tap a Coco and not dropping the Girautinas in like silly moments will just win you the game. Because once you've Coco spread sort of 2-3 times, you can then just drop the Tina on a 70 HP Pokemon, take a prize, and then Sky Scorch for the game. So
sure.
You have to be very, very careful how you do it. But obviously then it comes into the Zapdos matchup as well. Like, if you can hit 40 on an active Zapdos, then 20 everywhere else, you've already meet the requirements then for Sky Scorch and KO stuff like Jirachis, Marshadows, that sort of stuff. But with a ping on the bench with that Zapdos that's already got 40 damage, that's also dying to Sky Scorch as well. But there's also my round 4 where I was playing against Pissimi and Coco, and immediately my reaction was, oh my god, how am I ever going to win this matchup? But my first deck search is like, oh my god, I play Tapu Coco too. So we just
Sure.
it was just attacking with each other's Cocos, and because of the Sky Scorching Light and the sort of the ability to Tina as well, and keeping my bench low and not allowing him to go behind with counter energy, meant that Tapu Lele wasn't ever doing anything. But it also then just meant that I could Coco and clean up his whole board.
Sure.
Which I did do. And it just works. Like, the Coco itself is just such a good card, especially against like the Absol decks as well. If you stick an skateboard on a Coco, it's always free retreat.
Yep.
So it's just, again, it's another pivot as well.
Sure. So I think generally, I think that was all the questions we got. We talked about the B strings, we talked about ball counts. Is there any closing remarks you'd have or advice for people that are picking up this deck?
Yeah, do your research on the matchups. Don't just pick it up and assume you have to always bench Necrozma and start swinging. I've spoken with a number of people about this, and they sort of were in sort of different views as to how you handle certain matchups, like the Blacephalon matchup, for example. Everyone just thinks, oh, it's fine, you can just race them and you'll win. It's like, no, that's a really poor way to play that matchup. You have the ability to just take all your prizes at once. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yep.
They can just spread like 130 on one Blacephalon with Giratina, 130 on another. You've already got the 10s on the Mars Shadows, for example, and as soon as they break the prize exchange and go down to one, or you take one and they go down to one, you can Sky Scorching Light and just take all your prizes at once.
Yep.
Exactly the same as Rayquaza as well. And obviously you've got the ability to just sort of set up the sort of the 4 to 5 prize turn. But the majority of the times people are just too trigger happy with the Ultra Necrozma. They forget that you discard the energy, and if they don't KO it, it's stuck there.
Yep.
So just do your research on the matchups, know what's happening, know where your prizes are coming from, more importantly, and just stopping your opponent from taking their prizes as well.
Sure.
But setting up correctly is obviously the big one.
Yeah.
And use Gengar efficiently.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and then just to finish off, obviously we've got Bristol Regionals coming up. It's very, very quick turnaround. It's, like 10 days away now, 9 days away, something like that, 10 days I think. So what are you expecting from Bristol Regionals then? How are you expecting the meta to shape up?
I imagine a lot of people, there'll either be a lot of fighting decks or there'll be a lot of Pikarom. I think people will start sort of shifting towards, there'll be a lot of people that just want to try and net deck Gustavo. And look, if they do, fantastic. I've spoken with a number of people that are just like, oh, I'm going to play Malamar. And I was like, please do. I'd love a free win from a mirror match. But it's just I can't see it changing. There's nothing that came out of there other than the Tapu Koko Greninja deck, which some people will play, but people don't realise that Jitmin is he's a very, very good player.
Yep.
Those type of decks you can't just pick up and play.
No.
It's the same as the new Shedinja Zubstrika deck. I've spoken a lot with Pablo about the deck, and it's just not something you can just pick up and play. It's something you have to know properly and know the matchups and know what to do in certain situations and know the sequencing. Otherwise, you will just screw up and you'll lose games because of it. Like there's not a lot of people in the game that are just good enough to pick up any deck and play it without any testing.
Yep. So it's just be careful what you play, pick the right deck.
Yeah. People just play what you know and play it better than the other people. It's very, very straightforward. The game's not hard.
Sure.
People just make the game far too complicated than it needs to be.
Sure. And I presume you're going to carry on with this Ultra Necrozma?
I imagine so. I don't see any sort of, it's not broke, don't fix it, right? Well, it is broken, the deck's amazing. But I don't see the need to change. If I do change, it'll probably be to some sort of Pika variant, or I also quite like the look of some of the stall decks out there as well. So who knows? I don't want to be that guy though. Stall players just infuriate me.
Yeah, I know there's a few of them around in Berlin that I got chatting to as well. So yeah, I imagine that stall will show up, and we'll see what happens with that.
I imagine so, but if it comes up, it comes up. If it doesn't, well, that's still digging up.
Excellent. Okay, so that was. I think that's everything we've wanted to chat about. So we'll wrap it up there. So we've been Sam and Karl from NCG. If you see us around at Bristol, come and say hi. But until then, see you next time. Good night.